Hey guys, welcome back to the Hail Yes podcast. I am your host, Hailey Gamba, and let's get into today's topic. I think it's going to be a really good one. We are going to be discussing anticipating being the villain and owning it. And a huge discussion that's actually in my inbox quite a bit is pretty much about people pleasing and not being able to say no, not being able to be yourself, be authentic. And then on top of it, I feel like a lot of people struggle with stepping into their purpose and in their power without feeling like someone would be offended or they would view it as you being fake or inauthentic. So we're going to be discussing that today. And it's all about being the villain and owning it. And I feel like a lot of people maybe misconstrue what your villain arc could be about. But I want to kind of dive deeper today and share how I think it's a very powerful journey into really just finding yourself and stepping into your power. I feel like this can be really a complex discussion about abolishing your people-pleasing ways and stepping into your true purpose and not being afraid of making other people uncomfortable with your presence. It is very natural when you are starting to like yourself more and you grow up and you become your own person, because for majority of our adolescent life, we are in the shadows of our parents, of people that we look up to, and of people who have shaped us and molded us into who we are. But then when we become adults, I think it's really important to be more yourself and find yourself, which takes time, of course. And in all of that, some people really can be unsure and maybe gossip or feel weird about it. That is not really for you to care about. So we're going to really talk about being audacious and stepping into your villain role correctly. So that's pretty much what today's topic is about. But I first want to discuss kind of just what's been going on in my life, right? I feel like we need to just have a little girl to girl moment and just have a little chat. I like to incorporate these, okay? Like we don't need to always be so textbook and perfect. I don't know about you guys, but I've seen like this new TikTok trend and it's so funny to me. I'm obsessed with it. All of the girlies are exposing their most inner thoughts and their hot takes when it pertains to themselves. And the trend is called, Unfortunately, I Do Love. And you're supposed to share like all of the things that you love that are kind of like tongue in cheek or hot takes or a little raunchy, a little risque. So I figured I'd share some of mine. For example, though, just in case you guys want to know how to like participate in this trend, some people would say something like, unfortunately, I do love a cigarette when I'm drunk. I'm not saying that's me. I'm just saying that some people do really love that. And I get it. Like I get the vibe. So let's get into my unfortunately, I do love ideas. Okay. The first thing that I do unfortunately love is the block button. Not only do I love blocking people on Instagram, YouTube, and all of my social medias, but I also really do love blocking phone numbers. If you disrespect me in my phone, you're getting blocked. You're not about to be talking to me crazy in my own phone that I pay for. My actual phone that I pay the bill every month. No way. Not happening. So I love the block button. The next thing that I do unfortunately love is having the last word. Oh my God, who else got in trouble for this growing up? Me. Okay. I was the child that got a nice little belt to having the last word because I just had to say something witty. I just had to say something smart. You think that I would have outgrown that considering how much trouble I got in for doing that growing up. But no, I still really do love having the last word and sharing the last sentence, which I'm working on, especially with men, because let's just be so for real. If a man disrespects you, the best thing that you can do is walk away in silence and say nothing. But I'm not going to lie to you guys because I hate lying. Sometimes I will send a little something. Like, and that's why your mother should have swallowed you. Very disrespectful, I know. If it's witty, I just can't help myself. Like, I got to be honest. Next thing that I unfortunately do love is really expensive things. I feel like if something's expensive, it's that much better. I hate that fact about myself. I think it's really scary because not only did I come from a very frugal parent, like my mom is very anti-spending money on things that you don't really need. Where me, I'm like, we will find some place to put that very weird looking vase that kind of looks like an urn, but it was $4,000. I just love it. Okay, the next thing that I do unfortunately love is buying a new outfit for every occasion. If I'm getting invited to a wedding, buying an outfit, a baby shower, outfit, going out with my girlfriends to a restaurant I've never been to, buying an outfit. I can't help it. I just can't. Unfortunately, I do love a tall Hispanic or a Middle Eastern man. I feel like we don't really need to bring context up here because it's just already embarrassing enough. But if you are a tall Hispanic or Middle Eastern man, I unfortunately do love that. Do I practice resistance? Absolutely. But I still love it. I do like to cuss. I feel like you guys do know this about me. If you've been following my YouTube channel, you guys know I love to cuss. I specifically like the C word. I hate that I like that word. And by the C word, I mean the see you next Tuesday word. I get in trouble for using that word. Okay. Not even from my parents. I would never use that word in front of my parents, but I have used it in front of my friends and they're like, oh my God, girl, why? And I'm like, oh, I just love it. It's just so see you next Tuesday. Like, I just love that word. I love it as like a term of endearment. Like, I'm so I'm so I'm not going to say the word, but you guys know what I'm trying to say. I unfortunately do love hating men my entire personality. And the truth is, I really don't hate men. Do I? A lot of them I do. But there are really great men in my life. You would think that I'm like fatherless and like don't have any good guys, which there's nothing wrong with either of those things. But I act like that and I'm not. I have really great men in my life, great role models for men. And yet I still just don't like them because when I meet men out who do not even have the very baseline characteristics that my own dad has or my brothers, I'm like, oh, you are like bizarre. So yes, making men my entire personality, of course. Also saying that I'm from Jersey and yes, that I am Italian. So I unfortunately do love telling people I'm from Jersey. It's my favorite thing. I feel like I've also made that my personality, which I don't know why. I feel like growing up, I did not realize how impactful and cool it was to be from Jersey. Like I always would say, like, we are such a small state. Who cares about us? And then Jersey Shore put us on the map and Jerseylicious. And I'm like, that's incredible. Like, I love it. So saying that I'm from Jersey and saying that I'm Italian, I think I use that type of language. I say that exact sentence once a week. I love a Diet Coke. Okay. I unfortunately do love a Diet Coke. I will never give that up. I also love Coke like that has flavor. So cherry Coke, so good. I also unfortunately do love eating Taco Bell at night after drinking. Hence the reason why I hate going out and getting drunk, because I more than likely will get Taco Bell later. I will. I also love sitting at a bar by myself in my gym clothes. I don't care that I'm showing up in a sports bra. I'm sitting at a bar. I'm not at a fine dining table. So I unfortunately do love that. And I love doing it by myself. You'd be surprised. It attracts a certain type of person. Let's just say that. I unfortunately also do love a good debrief gossip sesh with my girls. Okay. Me and my girlfriends have done the craziest debrief gossip sessions together where we will like round up the troops, sit on my couch, pull up the messages, get an audio recording, put it on the TV. I know it sounds kind of crazy. By the way, it's about men. It's not about other women. We do it from time to time and it's fun. It just keeps things light. It keeps things vibey. And the last thing that I unfortunately do love is hoarding. I'm a hoarder. Like I have so many things right now in my attic and even in my spare closets for every season. I have like random napkins in my pantry that are for like having some sort of like rodeo party. Why did I buy those? I don't know. But I will eventually have a Western themed party that will call for those napkins. Okay, so let's get back into today's topic at hand, which is about being the villain in someone else's story and just owning it and learning to live in your truth. I really think that this can be super hard for two types of people. People that are empaths and people that just like really care a lot about what people think of them. I am not going to sit here and lie and say that that wasn't me. Prior to getting on YouTube, that was like my biggest fear was people not liking me not being someone who's relatable, just not being liked and not being understood. Even though I have went through so many moments in my life where being misunderstood was honestly the norm for me. I honestly didn't even realize until I started doing YouTube that I was meant for it. I was made for it because being the black sheep, being different, even trying at times to pander to other people's levels of like what they view as acceptable or cool and still not being accepted in those spaces really taught me a lot about authenticity because I realized that even if I were to pander to somebody else's way of thinking and doing, they still have chosen to misunderstand me, to disrespect me, and I needed to get rid of those feelings and emotions that were surrounding being validated. I needed to learn to validate myself. So being the villain sometimes is really just about being yourself and being okay with people not adhering to that, not wanting to be near that, because that's on them. That's not on you. Even more specifically, I used to lose sleep over thinking somebody was mad at me, losing sleep over someone thinking I did something to them. Or even if I heard that someone did something to me and now they don't like me, it would like make my entire chest tight. I would have anxiety around it. I couldn't sleep. It would just give me so much anxiety because I was so desperate at many times in my life to be picked, to be chosen, to be liked. And I used to say that I much rather fade into the background and not be seen than be seen and disliked. It was like such a fear of mine. And even more specifically, and this is kind of an unhinged story time before I get into how to truly be the villain and own it. When I was in high school, and this is really unhinged, guys, but I really want you guys, especially if you're in high school or college, or you're in certain environments around a bunch of women, around people who just are not really your kind of people. I want you guys to really take something from this story time as a way to provide some sort of covering over your life, but also to build that grit and resilience from within. A few years ago, and by a few, I mean a lot of years ago, because I graduated high school over 10 years ago, I was at a friend's house. And this wasn't really like a close friend of mine, but it was a girl that I had been friendly with for a little while. And it was me, her, and then two other girls and their boyfriends. So there was like 4 of us girls and 3 boys. We were all hanging out. Now, I have never hung out with the guys before. I've only hung out with the girls. By the way, if my mother heard this story time, she would kill me. But I'm an adult now. I'm almost 30. I could say it now. But anyways, I remember what would make you cool back in high school was like if you had a connect when it pertained to like someone who can get you alcohol or somebody who can get you pot. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. When I was in high school, I did like to indulge in partying from time to time. But the truth is, I had a really bad experience with smoking weed that it kind of like threw me off for a little bit and I didn't really love it anymore. But I did know people who sold it, who, had it, whatever. So I remember we were all hanging out in the girls' basement and one of the guys was like, I would really love some pot right now. And I'm like, oh, I actually know somebody who has it if you want me to call him and have him bring it here because he loves to do like drop-offs. And he's like, yeah, do that. So I hit up the person. He was like, yeah, how much you need? I ended up giving the phone to the other person, to the girl. She ended up, orchestrating it, whatever and whatnot. As he was on his way, the guys that I was with, who again, like I said, I never met these guys before in person. They were just like the boyfriends of the girls I was with. They were like, oh, by the way, who's the person that's bringing the pot? I told them the name. Let's just say that something had transpired between the guys I was with and the guy that's on his way the week prior. So the story that they had told me was that this particular guy who's coming to the house stole something from them. I don't remember exactly what the story was. I don't know if it was like they had something and he like stole it, like a physical thing. But I remember like he stole something from them on the boardwalk and they did not like him and they've been trying to get him back for it. Now he's almost at the house. I'm having a full on panic attack. And I remember in this moment thinking the right thing to do is to text the guy and tell him to turn around because these guys were planning on hurting him. And at the time, because of my people-pleasing ways and because I didn't want anyone mad at me, I didn't want anything to be misconstrued. I didn't want to be the reason that people would think that I'm getting in the way of what they have going on. I kept my mouth shut and I stayed out of it. Long story short, when the kids showed up, they got into a fight. It was a whole thing. And from that point forward, the guy that essentially brought the pot to the house thought I set him up. When I tell you that reputation stuck with me for a little while I was in high school, I was mortified because the truth was I did not set him up. The real truth is I also didn't speak up when I knew that something was going wrong. I say all this to say that people believe what they want to believe, and it's really difficult to convince them otherwise. The most powerful thing you can do in your life to not only stay out of trouble, but to also be authentic and just be yourself and be a good person is to speak up about the things that are important to you and to remove yourself from anything that can feel inauthentic or messy or just could really leave something stained on your life. I am so fortunate that this didn't get me hurt, didn't get other people hurt. Of course, the guys that were fighting, they got semi-hurt. To this day, I still hate that that happened. What I learned from that experience was to be more outspoken, to be more myself, to be okay with people not liking me, and to also design my own reputation by displaying good character. Let's get into how to own being the villain and to also try not to make the same mistake I made in my adolescent years that led me to having an experience that felt inauthentic to who I was. Because truthfully, I am not a bully. It's never been in me. It's not something that I enjoy. I don't like it from woman to woman. I don't like it when it's two men. I don't like bullying in any capacity, and I don't like fighting. So that's something that I had to learn from that experience. But I want to kind of get into, and I have it written down because this particular topic I think can really resonate with a lot of people. And it can be confusing for empaths or people pleasers to navigate rejection, to navigate being disliked. But I really want you guys to challenge that and start living in your truth a little bit more. So number one, become someone who has a deep understanding of self. What I mean by this is be someone who knows what your core values are, to have some sort of morals, some sort of guide that you live by that is very telling about who you are. This could be that you are a giver, a good listener, you're loyal, you're respectful, whatever values you want to have a part of your life, make that your mission to become very deeply rooted in that. What that does is it sets you up to be someone with armor around your body that protects you from what isn't what you are. A lot of people will try to tell you about yourself. It is not for you to believe. It is for you to hear and throw out. You need to get to know yourself, because if you don't, whatever someone says about you, you will just believe. And that is something that I had to learn growing up when somebody would say, you're talkative and you're this and you're that. Yes, some of those things were semi-true, but the way in which that they were relayed to me was not productive or conducive to who I wanted to be. And it wasn't fully the truth. The truth was, I love to speak. I love to also listen. I'm creative. I'm a little bit crazy at times, but it's a crazy that's really more rooted in passion and not in psychotic behavior. Once you figure out what your values are, what your standards are, who you are, stand on that. That allows you to be more vocal, to be more serious, to be more audacious in your life when it pertains to standing up to family, friends, coworkers, your boss, random people. For instance, I'll give a really good example. I do not like prejudiced people. I do not like people who find it humorous to make racial or prejudiced jokes. It's just not funny to me. I never found it funny. When I was younger and I heard these things, I would either pretend to laugh to adhere to what I thought everybody wanted me to be like, and or I would be silent. When I started working on my core values and who I was, I realized that not only am I outspoken, but I don't like certain things. And if I hear something that I don't like, I have no problem saying that. I am very proud to say that if I am out and about and I hear someone picking on someone else or saying something out of pocket or being disrespectful or being prejudiced, I will be the first one to stand up and say, that is disrespectful. You can't say something like that. And that's what I mean about standing on whatever it is that you believe. This will allow you to walk in your villain era in a healthy way because you're being yourself and you're doing what feels right to you without, pandering or catering to other people's emotions and to what you think they want you to be. The next thing that really will allow you to step into your villain era happily and easily is to stop over-explaining yourself to people who are choosing not to hear you. Sometimes it's not the way you're relaying a message. It's not what you're saying. It's who you're saying it to. Some people have already committed to the idea that they don't like you. I have had this happen with even family members, okay? I had a family member growing up who was committed to the idea of not liking me. And I was so upset about it because it made no sense to me that for a huge chunk of my life, I really wanted them and I to get along and find common ground by shrinking myself and walking on eggshells around this person. What I eventually realized was that they were going to find something, even in all of my carefulness. I could literally just purely exist and it's, oh, you're rolling your eyes at me, or, oh, why are you, viewing my life in this way? They were committed to being offended by my existence. So what I had learned in that entire thing was to not over-explain myself to people who do not want to hear me, who do not want to like me. It's a waste of your breath. It's a waste of your energy. And it puts you in a place where you are essentially shrinking yourself and trying to please someone who, to be honest, why? Why do you want to please a person who is committed to not liking you? We have to get more okay with people not liking us and it not affecting us. We need to say, oh, that's on you. And you know what? We are so okay in life with not liking everyone. It is so normal. And I know this about myself. I am either very much for you or I'm very much not. Usually it's never in the middle. People are never really wishy-washy about me. They either really don't like me or they really like me. And I'm okay with that because it allows me to build my tribe and my community better. I go towards where I feel I can be myself, where I feel like I'm accepted, where I feel like I'm just able to purely exist in my being without having to over-explain or to have to pander to somebody else's way of thinking or being. Okay, number 3 to walking in your villain era in a happy way and in an easy way is to never overshare your side of the story with people who, one, you do not know, or two, to the people who are committed to already feeling a type of way about you based off of what somebody else has said. I am a big believer in giving everyone a fair chance based off of my discernment. What I mean by this is, if I meet you and I heard to the left of me, oh, that girl's a bitch, she sucks, blah, 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 I really do tune that out. I really do. And I give that person who I'm meeting a fair chance based on my discernment. What that means is I scope out whether I feel like you are a good person based off of how you're moving, how you're acting, what you're saying. And sometimes it takes longer than other times. That being said, I still like to be the one who decides that for myself. I say all this to say, most people are sheep and follow the leader, follow the gossip, follow what's tea. I've never been that girl. I've always befriended the girl that people would talk shit about, the girl who was kind of a loner, who was very pretty, but very not liked. And there was always rumors being made about them. And I don't know if it was me like trying to give that person a chance, but I also really found it fascinating that people spend so much of their time talking about people that they don't know and making up rumors and lies. And a lot of the times when you get to know people that a lot of people are talking about, half of those things were like half truths. It's just something that I've always noticed. And I don't know why this was something that I noticed very young, but as I've gotten older, I definitely see it more, especially on social media. You hear one thing about someone and there's no fact checking. It's, well, if it's tea, if it's nasty, if it's vindictive, oh, that's the truth. And then when the truth does come out, it never gets the same recognition and light as the lie or as the thing that was more tea, which sucks. And that's just how life goes. People like what's more interesting, what's more drama filled. And I've learned that I cannot control what other people say about me, what other people think about me. All I can do is show up in an authentic way, have my character be shown through action, and whoever wants to give me a chance does. And whoever doesn't. And I'm okay with either. Something that you would be so surprised to hear that really ignites the villain arc within you is literally just living for yourself and like having a more selfish approach to life and doing things for you. You're going to see how bizarre and weird people act when you are just minding your business, enjoying your life. You could sit at a bar, reading a book, drinking a glass of wine, and you'll just like randomly notice people like scoffing, rolling their eyes. And it's just like, am I bothering anyone? And listen, something that I've always noticed is, at least for me, if I am attracting a negative energy, which sometimes I feel like isn't necessarily warranted, but I get it, is if I look too sexy. So if I'm like sitting across from an older couple and they're a little bit more conservative and buttoned up, I get why they would be like, oh, why does she look like that? I get that. But that doesn't mean I'm going to change. I grew up with a parent who, when I would wear a cute outfit to school, she'd be like, yes, I love that outfit. My mom bought all my clothes for me. And then I would be in the principal's office by 10 a.m. because my outfit wasn't appropriate. And then my mom would get a call. And then the principal would be like, and my mom's like, I watched her walk out the house this morning and I love that outfit and it's very appropriate. So a lot of the times what was deemed inappropriate really wasn't. It was just, I look too damn good in it. Okay. Let's just be for real. And a lot of times you just look too damn good. Your makeup's on point. Your boobs are sitting right. You got a nice curvy body and people are offended. And then on top of it, take looks completely out of it. God forbid you actually enjoy your life. God forbid you're smiling, going and getting your coffee in the morning. You're smiling, walking to your Pilates class. You're smiling because you have a job that you love and a man that you love and friends you love. Oh, that will offend the miserable. the miserable and the weak. So what? Live your life and you're going to see it. And you know what? Sometimes it takes getting rid of that miserable spirit out of your life for you to see all the people around you who are miserable, who you no longer want in your inner circle. Better yourself and see who chooses to stay and who chooses to lift you up during that time. It tells a lot about that person and about your elevation. Now, I know I said earlier in the episode that I unfortunately do love, because I do love having the last word, but I'm going to contradict that for a second here. When you are in your villain arc, really learn to love being silent in most things that just don't require much explaining. It's an art. It's something that you should practice, and it's not easy for everyone. For the people who just naturally are very private and very silent, this isn't easy for you. But there's people like me who like to connect through words, who are deeply empathetic, deeply passionate. And I even think that at times I would try to validate other people's lives by sharing something about my own. That being said, when you are approaching your elevation journey, you need to be more mindful about who you're sharing things with and why. And really dive deep, even in your shadow work. Like ask yourself, why am I sharing that so in-depthly with that person? Is it necessary? And is it helpful and conducive to my life? Not only do I want you to stop oversharing, but I also think that it's important to not have the last word at times with really disrespectful people, with people who are committed to not understanding you. I remember the last experience that I had with that one family member who was constantly berating me and, bullying me my entire life, essentially. Their final act of reconciliation, they were like, oh, I think we should meet for coffee and chat. I ghosted. And it actually felt really good because we had already done the let's chat, let's resume our relationship, let's resolve these things. And then it happened again and again and again. And I was realizing there's a pattern here. There is no reason to be speaking with this person. So I just went silent and moved out my life. Sometimes you just have to be silent. Stop speaking to people. Stop speaking about things that are not important to discuss with certain crowds, and just learn to be more observant and more protective about your energy, your peace, and your privacy. And this is a huge one for me when you are stepping into your villain era correctly and owning it, is also being able to admit that you have committed some sort of wrongdoing in your life as well. I remember that when I was trying to better myself, there was so much shame around the things that I had done that I didn't like, whether it was in relationships or in friendships or with my family. Something that I even for a long time really was upset about was even my relationship with my siblings. Like I was mean to them. I was very dismissive. And the way in which I gave myself grace, but also acknowledged what I did was this. The way I gave myself grace was by saying, you did that out of survival. When you are trying to better your life and focus on certain things, it's really hard to pour into other people and to care about other people. And then on top of it, the environment that we were all in was chaotic at times. It felt just not super healthy. And then there was an age difference where I felt like I was more parent and they were more child. What that did was in my adult years, when we all became adults, I really had to acknowledge that I was doing all of those things by also giving myself grace, but still apologizing and trying to do better. When you are stepping into your villain era, you are coming into your own skin in a healthy way, but you're also acknowledging what you've done wrong and building a new and improved version of yourself that you're more proud of. So yes, my boundaries and my standards might be higher, but my empathy and compassion has definitely increased as well. These are things that you can do at the same time. You can be better at being more cutthroat, more audacious, and more bold, but also be better at being empathetic and sensitive and understanding. So that was something that I had to work on with my own siblings. And we're in such a better place because I did the work and I'm still doing the work. So that's something that I would definitely stress the importance of. We don't want to be the type of villains where we're perfect and I don't give a F if anybody's in my life. That is a mean way of not being able to form some sort of community. And I want community in my life. So it's important to me to nurture relationships that do matter to me, but also nurture myself to where everyone is being poured into equally, or at least where they feel like it's equal and reciprocal. I want to conclude this entire conversation by saying that authenticity will save you from the disappointment that others will give you in life. A lot of the times we don't understand why people treat us the way they do, why they say the things that they say, why they do the things that they do. But that's the whole point. When you are different than that, when you are more authentic, when you show up better, you're not supposed to understand why people are doing not so great things. It's not for us to understand. It's for us to discern and remove. So when stepping into your villain era and owning it, be okay with people not liking you when you've decided to no longer be in the pit with them, be in the trenches with them, and when you started to become your own person. Because if becoming your own person offended someone else, they are not your people, okay? So view that as a blessing and keep moving forward. Never abandon yourself to please someone else. And that is really what I want to sum this all up with today. Before we wrap up, I really want to do what is called Hail Mail. We've discussed this in a few other podcasts, and we're going to try to do it every single episode. And it's essentially where you guys send me a DM, send it to me on the Hailey Yes Podcast Instagram or on my main account at Hailey Gamba. And you're going to just send me a question anonymously, or I'm going to know it's you, but I'm going to read it anonymously. And I'm going to answer it here because I want to have more interactive moments with you guys on the podcast. So I am going to read a message from you today, and let's just get into the Hail Mail. So this person said, I'm an overthinker. How do you actually do things that scare you? I can hype myself up in my head, but the moment I have to speak up or take a risk, I shy away. How do you push through the fear and show up? There's a few things that I want to mention. I was actually listening to a Mel Robbins podcast where she was interviewing Emma Grede. And something that Emma said in the podcast was the difference between perfectionism and excellence. It really did something to me because it was saying how when you're perfectionistic, it's about how others view you. And when you are striving for exceptionalism or excellence, it's about how you're viewing you. And it's more of an internal thing. What I want you to think about whenever you are trying to do something is how it makes you feel and how it can better your life without the thought and the idea of someone else validating that experience for you. The reason we are so stunted is because of other people's eyes on what we're doing. A lot of it is just the fear of perception. It's the fear of somebody perceiving you as imperfect. Once you get rid of that fear, you'll be able to actually see your life be more beautiful. You'll see more things happen for you. And a lot of the times when you face your fears, you realize it was never truly a real fear in the first place. It was just something that you never did before. And you don't want to confuse a fear for something that you've never done. A lot of the times, things that we've never seen and never done, we say are fears. But I really do believe that a fear would be something that you've experienced that really scared you. And a lot of the times we never experienced half of the things that we say we fear. So go into something trying to be more fearless and watch yourself realize it wasn't as bad as you thought it would be. Okay, guys, that is the conclusion of today's episode. I really loved this topic. And if you guys can relate, please make sure to rate this podcast, share it with a friend, leave a comment. I want to hear your own stories. So you guys can DM me on the Instagram page that I have for this channel. And I just want to hear from you. This is something that I think a lot of you guys probably do struggle with. And I'm hoping that I could really give you guys a little bit more of a comfortable approach to just walking in your purpose a little bit deeper, because that's the whole point of this podcast. So if you guys liked it, make sure again to share it, like it, send it to a friend, do all the things, subscribe on wherever you guys get your podcast. Thank you so much for tuning into the Hailey Yes Podcast again. And I will see you guys for the next episode. Bye, everyone. Mwah.
Pioneer.